Alrighty, well, Brendan here. Everyone else want to introduce themselves?
Sure, I'm Jake.
Kelly.
I'm Sophia.
I'm Emily.
So we basically wanted to focus on some safety topics that typically arise around a pool environment. And so the two major ones were drowning and slipping, and the behaviors associated with those outcomes, such as running and misgauging the depth of the pool.
Yeah, and so the two main solutions that we came up with for these problems were painting different pictures in the shallow versus the deep end of the pool, and then also having different textures closer to the pool edge so children can differentiate when they're close to the pool. Yeah, so when it comes to the different pictures inside the pool, we were thinking of, like, in the shallow end, make it more of a kid-friendly picture, like maybe the dolphins in the image on the right, and in the deep end, maybe doing like a shark, so that young kids are less likely to go into the deep end because they're like maybe afraid of the shark.
And also, as it relates to the multisensory experience that we discussed in class, we were thinking that we could make the perimeter around the outside of the pool, where typically kids that are barefoot are running and could potentially trip, we would differentiate the texture of the ground so that they would be able to pick that up through their feet when they're running barefoot. So closer to the pool would be a little bit different, probably a little bit more rocky, a little bit more sharp, so that the kids would, I mean, obviously not sharp enough to cut their feet, but just sharp enough and just kind of a different texture, so that they can, again, kind of get the idea that they're getting closer to the edge, so that it's less likely for them to slip and have an accident.
Yeah, and just to add, we kind of got inspiration from the video that we saw, adding like the visual component into the whole how you gauge depth and all of that for object perception and object recognition. So we thought about the visual cliff experiment that we saw in class, and how the role of nonverbal communication for young kids especially is very important. And that's kind of the audience that we're trying to prevent from drowning and slipping in the pool. So in situations where they wouldn't know when the deep end begins, they can be prevented from going into the more dangerous parts of the pools by seeing a dangerous image. So they would associate kind of what they should and shouldn't do from what they see, so that they can overcome that challenging situation of where they can't perceive depth.
All right, so I guess just to finish off and kind of just sum it up, if anyone wants to add anything, hop in. But just for the most part, the two safety related issues, kind of what Brendan was talking about, has to do with the pool environment. And we're talking specifically about drowning and slipping. So slipping is being addressed by changing the texture of the outside perimeter of the pool. And drowning is being addressed by inserting images onto the bottom of the pool that are correspondent with something that's like dangerous, like a shark towards the deep end, or something more friendly like dolphins or like colorful fish or something like that towards the shallow end, to continue to give that reminder. And kind of also what Sophia was saying about the visual cliff experience as well, and how the kids are typically maybe not as attentive to those verbal cues, but they'd be more attentive to the nonverbal cues, like having pictures at the bottom of the pool.